I don't think that the reason that your sales are lower is because they've cannibalized it. I think that the reason that your sales are lower, I mean, I would imagine that the majority of the books that you're listing on your software that sends it to the other platforms don't have ISBNs or anything like
Correct.
that. That okay,
Correct.
that right there is the reason.
All right, welcome back to another episode of Paper Gold, an ongoing book hunters conversation, deep dive excavation, and this is unbelievably episode number 4. We have one of our Paper Gold members featured and showcased today. His name is Mike, and I'm going to have him introduce himself, tell us a little bit about his business, and then we're going to go into the deep dive. So, Mike, welcome to the family here, and
Thank
tell us
you.
a little bit about who you are and what your store is all about.
I'll try to be brief on what is unfortunately a very long journey, but I've been a bookseller full time. Next year will be 30 years. And I before that, I was a diplomat. I sold computers, I sold insurance, and I tried to work with a family company that clearly did not work. I opened a used bookstore in 95. In 96, I discovered Interlock and which is a dial-in service for selling it. In 95, before I opened the business, I actually went to Colorado for the Colorado Book Seminar,
Okay.
which was run at that point by the people who ran AB Weekly, which was the way you sold books.
Right.
It was a magazine that came out weekly.
Mm-hmm.
You put in your wants, you put in your for sales, postcards started jamming up your mailbox, and you ship things out in a couple of weeks. And then Interlock showed up. Interlock is the predecessor to a Libris. Everybody, it's multi-generational at this point. And a year later, I was on Abe on Bibliofind and a couple of others. And by 97, the demands of being an online business was such that I just locked the door and used the storefront as a warehouse.
Wow.
In 2003, there was a fire in my building. I lost a little over 20,000 books. And I used that as an opportunity to redesign the business, realizing that lower end was fading for me. And wow, I've been through so many different services, different pieces of software, different focuses. At one point, Amazon was my primary source of sales. I started with Amazon when they had their own rare and used book department that sourced books for their customers.
Do you have a year on that, Mike? Do you have an
what?
approximate year on that?
That would have been around 98.
98, okay.
Maybe 97, 98. Okay. Then they came up with something called Z Shops.
Yeah.
And then then it became Marketplace, which is the first time Amazon actually began to earn any kind of profit. And the whole time I was with Amazon before that, I didn't know if they were going to survive. Unlike eBay, which clearly took a slice of what was going on, and therefore could afford to do what they were going to do ad infinitum.
Let me ask you while we're on this, Mike, real quick. Do you still have that Amazon account?
Of course.
Oh, brother. Oh, brother. Okay, can you continue your story here?
Well, no, I mean, but if you want to talk about Amazon,
no. We'll 100% get there. I just
come
wanted
back to that because I got
yes.
strong opinions.
Oh, I'm sure. I've
seen the good, the bad, and the ugly.
Yeah, this is already fascinating. This is totally fascinating.
And then the closest thing I found to the early eBay days where you knew your customers and you could talk to them and you could communicate them is when Facebook showed up with Facebook Live sales.
Okay.
And this would have been around 2019, roughly. And then I started doing that and I liked it. And then COVID happened. And the auctioneer community, which loved doing on-site auctions and in-hall auctions, had to discover the internet to their horror. and discovered A, it was easier, B, they could make more money. And in the state of Pennsylvania, they decided, well, let's go stick the licensing division up on everybody who's on out there who isn't a licensed auctioneer who's conducting live auctions on the internet.
Amazing. Amazing.
So, and long story short, I ended up joining a Zoom crash course of 10 weeks, 3 days a week, plus a whole bunch of other things going on, and ended up with a Pennsylvania auctioneer's license. So I'm a licensed auctioneer, and Mike's Library became an LLC, and
Right.
Mike's Library LLC is a licensed Pennsylvania auction company. While it allowed me to resume what it was I was doing before, it also opened up some nice new avenues. I've now been doing occasional sales on Live Auctioneers, which is a very targeted upper scale site for auctions, auction houses.
And international, of course,
Yeah,
international.
I've been international from day one almost, and it's funny. I teach the post office people things because they didn't know all the tricks, and I've learned them all over the years as fast as they change them.
So,
But
let me pause you for a second, just
Sure.
to help the people viewing this. Liveauctioneers.com is an online auction platform. And in my previous conversations with Mike, I know that he would do approximately 300 lots in an auction. So he would have 300 books go live on a specific date and a specific time. And all of the pictures were taken, and Mike would put in all of the issues and condition and beautiful features of each book. So if he did 300 lots, he would have a lot of shipping to do over the course of the next 3 or 4 days, I'm sure. So it's a great platform, but it is a lot of work on the front end, a lot of work on the back end, but the selling is probably the most exciting part of that because it happens very quickly.
Well, that, and also, I mean, in my case, it's a timed auction rather than a live one.
Okay.
So I can get it up live about 2 weeks, 10 days to 2 weeks ahead of time, so people can preview it. They can leave bids, but there's a certain, I normally try to close on a Saturday, so I at least have 2 days to try to get things organized. They also do all the invoicing and collection of monies, which is wonderful because the auction closes and I'm paid.
Right.
And I don't have to worry about chargebacks as their headache, the whole 9 yards. So it's been a good experience for me.
Is this something you're still doing to this day?
Oh yeah, it's new to me, and so I'm working on my 4th auction with them right now.
Okay, so you're working on your 4th auction with Live Auctioneer. So is your goal to do one every 3 months, like for a year, or what is your plan for
quarterly is sort of my minimum. I'd like to do every other month if I could. My trouble, and we'll get into it, is I go down rabbit holes when it comes time to list, and so I try to chase things down. I try to buy unusual, obscure things that maybe 3 to 5 people in the world will care about, and describe it and keyword it in such a way that one of them's going to find it and say, yeah. And it's been a long tail business. I'm gracefully aging, but I've been changing my view of how long a tail I'm going to tolerate.
Sure.
I mean, before, if I sold something that I'd listed 20 years ago, I didn't care.
Right.
Now it's like, hey, 20 years from now, it's not, hopefully it's not going to be my estate, but it's definitely, I don't want to wait that long.
Now, there's a lot of curious factors here, Cody, for me to think about historically. Mike started a brick and mortar bookstore right at the intersecting times of eBay and Amazon were coming into play.
Sure.
So it was a new fashion to order a book online. So Mike was right there at that time. Mike also likes to do Live Auctioneers, and subsequently Mike and I met because of Whatnot, which is sort of like Live Auctioneers, but lower end and daily and hourly and everything else, a quicker paced thing. But that's how Mike and I originally met. So Mike, you can almost say, is at the forefront of all of these platforms. And I think one thing we could do to help him is to help him understand all of the platforms and the best ways of selling.
Well, sure. I guess for me, I appreciate you giving us that background, Mike. But what as you know, aside from your auctioneering, what are you selling your books on right now? What platforms are you selling your books on?
Okay, I have a common piece of software known as Book Tracker, which uploads it to everybody I sell on. So the same book I'm ready to list will go to Amazon, will go to eBay, will go to Abe, will go to Biblio, will go to my website
Okay.
without me doing anything once I've listed it. Now with live auctioneers, what I do is I put it on the same piece of software, and but it's flagged as an auction piece. But when the auction's over, I can then flip a switch, and all of these things are now live on all the services. And so that works well for me because basically maybe about half of what I don't sell in the actual auction will sell within the next 6 months. I've been very pleased with the sell through
On another platform.
on another platform.
Okay, so if you put 300 lots up on live auctioneers, you'll sell 100 to 150 on live auctioneers, and then whatever's remaining will sell either on Amazon, eBay, A, Biblio, or your site.
Exactly.
Okay.
So let me ask, if you were to, and again, this is just your best guess unless you know this by heart, what platforms would you say have the majority of your sales,
Okay, well that's easy.
percentage
And
wise?
well, that's easy, and it is a constant evolution. The one thing that I mean, I don't know if if I can stress this more. Every 6 months in this business, you have to reinvent yourself. Everything you thought worked won't work, or will have changed enough that if you're not dancing with it, you're going to get clobbered. I mean, at one point, Amazon was 50% of my sales. At this point, my best-selling site is probably eBay. Maybe a third to 40% of my sales is on eBay. And again, it just varies. When I run sales on it, I do well on Biblio. When I don't run sales on it, it's not that great a site. Alibris is virtually moribund for me, although some people say it still works for them. I do nicely. I try to cut back time wise, so I basically try to do maybe one to two Facebook lives a month, and then that's nice. I'm clearing out lower end things that didn't quite make the cut for the real services, and I'm making money.
So
Right.
just to make clarify, eBay and Amazon are where the majority of your sales are right now
No,
currently.
Amazon now is a laggard.
Okay.
Amazon has so redesigned their systems over
Yes.
time that it went from being my mainstay to being, why in the world am I paying a subscription fee?
And I already know the reason why this is
Oh,
happening
I know
for
the
you.
reason why too. They deliberately designed it that way.
What do
They
you mean? What do you mean?
cannibalize. They cannibalize. See, I'm a used and rare bookseller.
Sure.
Amazon discovered print on demand. So
Oh,
therefore, if you go and search for an older book, what their system is going to show you is a pod that they themselves on one of their internal divisions is going to generate. It's their profit center.
I
They don't show you that often. They don't. I mean, yes, I make Amazon sales, but people have to hunt for it
yeah.
for a lot of my stuff. Now, the day-to-day academic stuff, like because I do buy unusual academic that's fairly recent. Now that'll pop and sell on Amazon because it's got an ISBN, and it just I'm competing. And usually I'm one of only two to three people who have the title I'm offering, because that's my goal. I don't want to have a title that 100 people have.
Let me stop
Go
you for
ahead.
a second. Yeah, because I think I was gonna say I think you're wrong. I don't think that
Okay.
I don't think that the reason that your sales are lower is because they've cannibalized it. I think that the reason that your sales are lower, I mean, I would imagine that the majority of the books that you're listing on your software that sends it to the other platforms don't have ISBNs or anything like
Correct.
that. Okay,
Correct.
that right there is the reason. So I'm not sure if you're aware, but are you familiar with the Amazon Seller app?
Oh,
Have you ever
I don't need
used?
to. I mean, I've been creating basins for years.
Right.
ASINs. I
Just
mean,
yeah,
go ahead.
just hear me out on this one, okay? Because
I'll listen.
yeah, because this is gonna change the game for you on it. There are certain ASINs out of if you were to see if you go through and let's say you were to find a book on Amazon, right? And you look and you see, wow, there's 25 different listings for this exact same book. 25 different individual ASINs for that exact same book is what I'm saying. Amazon pushes in their search results on their page and their search results when with their ad work with Google, one specific ASIN. Okay.
Hmm.
So when you're making that new listing on your software that will, push it to all the different places, you're creating a new ASIN for that product.
No, I'm using an existing ASIN.
So you're saying you're doing the research for that book and you are finding
finding where Amazon had it hidden. Yes.
what do you mean where it was hidden? Can you explain that to me?
Oh, well, that's straightforward. Take most books.
Sure.
Do an Amazon search. I want Catch 22 Heller.
Sure.
Okay. And I want a first printing. Well, they're going to only have if you don't. Well, that's too recent for my example. But what'll happen is unless you jiggle the search engine, that is, specify the binding, specify the exact year,
Yes.
Mhm.
it won't pop. And even when you specify the exact year, there's enough print on demand people who've cloned their item as if it was printed that year that those listings will still bury you
I
even on the
I
correct one.
I gotta disagree with you, man. I mean, because this is what I do all day, every day. And Amazon is my platform. So so
I
just
loved
just
Amazon when they sold for me, but I honestly believe that they deliberately, as a corporate policy, went, once they got bigger than they needed books on marketplace, and once they started making most of their profits on their computer services, and they just cannibalized the
well,
used
I
bookseller.
hear what you're saying, but I'm speaking. I'm proof that that's not true. Like
Well, let,
I
yeah.
do very well, on the platform with special. Like I would say, just here's an example for you. Only 30% of my books, right, are on average are pre-barcode books, pre-ISBN books,
Right.
but they make up 50% of my profit that I make at the end of the year. And so, but these
Well, yeah.
books, yeah, but what I'm saying is these books sell and they sell well. The trick is knowing what a profitable book is on their platform in general. So are you using any of the tools, like are you using Keepa, or are you using any of the scouting tools that allow you to see the data on the books that are on Amazon? Are you
Oh,
or
no,
even
no.
familiar with any of this?
I'll go to a sale. I'm not scanning a damn thing. I'm going through, I'm looking at publisher. I know almost by heart 90% of what's a first. I look at the content and decide, is this obscure enough that it might have real value? See,
Sure,
I'm looking for a
Right.
book that's $30 to $50 minimum
Yeah.
list.
Yeah.
sure,
So
sure.
And
let me interject here real quick because I understand both sides of this clearly.
Yeah,
I'm gonna give you guys a very common book that sells on Amazon that does not have a barcode that Cody and I have talked about before. Cody, and if you're willing and you can share screen share the Keepa on this book, this
sure.
might help Mike understand what you're talking about. Even though it's not a very old book, it's
Mhm.
50 years old, but it's something that we'll both understand. So let's go to a very funny book here. We'll go to Jonathan Livingston Seagull,
Okay.
published in the 60s or 70s, right?
Yep, I know the book.
So this is a book that you and I, Mike, you and I know is everywhere, right? We can find this book everywhere. Hardcover copy. Cody, if you don't mind going on Keepa for this book, I want you to go through the Keepa process of this book. It's probably a $20 to $30 book, I'm guessing, based on
Yeah, yeah,
conversations.
yeah. It depends on what the edition of it is.
Right,
So
but this is
that
what Mike does. Is Mike is looking for specific editions.
Max, what I'm going to do is just pull up one of my most recent orders, if that's okay with you
Okay, that's
guys.
fine.
That
Yeah.
that I think is in the same
Yeah.
area of everybody knows this book, right? Okay. Now this one's not a crazy old book, and I don't even remember if this one has an ISBN, but we'll look at it
As
and
long as we
and
can see the Keepa chart, it'll be fun.
yeah, absolutely. All right, so this is one of those books, right? That you can tell me if I'm wrong, but that you would think is popular, and that the print on demand is what's going to what would take over the market for something like this, or
Well, yes and no. That particular one, there's less print on demand for the nonfiction military because there's so many inexpensive book club edition for those kind of things. Now, this particular book, I know this well simply because I once had a sign first,
Mhm.
and I did well with that.
Yeah, this book used to be like 150, $200 back, if, at least like 4 or 5 years ago, and then people
And now
start.
you'd be lucky if it's a $5 book for the average copy.
No,
But
that's
but
where
but
you're
he- but
that's where
here
you're
here's
wrong.
here's the thing, brother. Here's the thing. This
Yep.
right here, I mean, mine sold for $35. Mine sold for
Okay.
$35 on the platform on Amazon.
Was it a
Now,
book club? Was it a special edition? Was it
yeah,
anything special?
it was well, it says first edition, but I don't believe this is actually the first. It was 1985 edition. I believe that's the book club edition. I don't know if maybe they have a
Well,
picture
it's
or
the same year, but for both of them.
right.
So it just
Yeah,
whether
yeah,
you could usually well right that one you could tell wasn't a book club because you
right, because it
have a
doesn't have
library
the
sticker on it, if that's a library sticker.
Someone
And
paid three
like
dollars for it.
oh
right.
no, okay,
Yeah,
So,
got
but
it.
Mike, do you
but yeah.
understand what this it looks like?
Yeah, explain it to me though, because
There you go.
I again
So
I'm here
this
because
is
I want to
the
learn.
Yeah, this is the Keepa chart. And again, just to make sure I understand, this isn't something that you've dealt with, correct?
Correct.
Keepa? Okay. All right. So I'm gonna try and I don't want to take the whole time because I think this is it's valuable, and we'll go over this more when we're on the show, and there's previous episodes that you could watch on it. But the long short of it is this is just a graph that explains all this is the sales history on Amazon. Okay.
Right.
So the black line that you see that's going right through here, this represents what the lowest average price of the book was at that time. So this,
Mm-hmm.
like right now, we're on 3 months. You can go a day, a week, 3 months, year, all time. We're on 3 months right now. So let's just, as an example, on November 8th, the lowest average price of the book listed was $18.92. Okay. So that's what the lowest average price, not necessarily what it sold for, but that's on the low end of what was listed currently at that time.
Well, but lowest average means half of the books were less than that, correct?
This is what if you were to take the average of the lowest books, the sales that what somebody has it listed for, that would be the average of the lower end books.
So half the books that are listed are less than that line.
I'm not familiar with how you're phrasing it, but we'll say yes, sure.
Okay,
That's not something to get too bogged down on.
right.
Basically,
Then I
this is
won't.
this is the low end of what the book would sell for. If you want to
Got it.
just, yeah, this is on the low end of what it possibly would have sold for at that time.
Okay.
Yeah, again, now this green line, and I'm sure you're familiar with this, is the sales rank, right? You're familiar with the sales rank
Yep.
on Amazon. This green line just represents that. Every time you see this line go up, obviously it's higher. And when this green line dips, what we'll do is I'm just going to zoom in to make this a little bit easier to see. You see up right here on my mouse, it's at 492, and then right here it's at 87K. So that represents most of the time a sell that's happened on the platform. Okay.
Right.
Okay, so what you can see, I mean, we're going to look back here at a year, right? All these dips that you're seeing throughout time, these are all sales that are happening on this particular book.
Mm-hmm.
So this
That's
book is
that's not
selling,
it.
just this one book. This book is selling all the time. I'm saying this to show you that what you should be figuring out the particular ASIN that Amazon is pushing to get the sales, right? That is the way to sell on Amazon on these books where you don't have a ISBN or a barcode to go off of.
Okay,
The and
so how do you get the different ASINs to then see what you hit? You'd have to look for five different ASINs and figure out which one has the most ups and downs, or is this software to handle that for you?
No, sir. This is as easy as it can possibly be. So here's what we're gonna do. I'm just gonna I'm gonna copy this because this is what I would be searching. Um, this is how I would were to do it if it were me. I would go to Google and I would type in the name of the book, the author of the book, and the most recent copyright year in the book. Okay?
Okay.
And when you do that, there is no print on demand thing that pops up. The very first thing, again, this is why I say Amazon does push the used book market. They want people to buy used books because there is they just want people, they want sellers to list good books that sell. Okay. This is the first thing that comes up with that result. Now, obviously, I copied and pasted, but that's exactly exactly what I would have typed in to Google to find it. And you see right here, this is probably going to be the exact same listing, and we'll verify that here by scrolling and looking at the ASIN. So here's the ISBN 8838. Looking here, 8838. So
Okay, so your quick trick, which is cool, is
yeah,
if you throw the title onto Google, whichever Amazon box they feed you will then tell you which one Amazon's favoring, so you pop that one in.
yes,
That's cool.
yeah, it's not yeah, it's not even so much like that yes, they are favoring it, but they're favoring it not because of any sort of like tin hat, they're trying to push something. It's this is the listing that gets the most sales, right? And so they're obviously going to want to push the listing that has the most sales. It's just that is just as simple as it could possibly be for
Hey,
for
I'm a happy camper. This in and of itself will make me money.
Cody, would
yeah,
you mind going back to Keeper on this book real quick? I just want to explain something.
yeah, yeah.
Would you mind going for 1 year so Mike can see all the dips in 1 year?
Oh yeah, 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 yeah.
This is how
And
Mike's going to completely understand this.
and to Mike, my other question for you is, do you have a repricer for your books on Amazon?
I no.
Okay. That is the other factor that's I mean, when I say holding you back, that is you will if you get just even a $30 repricer with basic triggers, because I say this because that's what I've recently got Max a lot more into Amazon than he once was. And just adding the repricer to the mix, I mean, you can speak for it, Max, versus me, but it can be the difference in getting a sale or not, because the difference between Amazon and all other marketplaces, people aren't looking at your condition.
Right.
They're not looking for your pictures. They're wanting to go. Well, just they want this is what they want to do. Okay. They want to click here. They want to search the book. They want to click. Oh, there it is on Amazon. And then they're going to click this button right here. If they're thrifty, right? They're going to click, oh, there's other copies. Let me find the one that is the cheapest price. And they're going to order from the merchant fulfilled sellers over here. Now, if your book was priced by you and you weren't and you didn't have a repricer coming in and comparing it, even if your
Oh,
book
I'd be
was at
buried, which is where I am now. I understand that completely. It's just that when I
1000%.
first started, repricers were very stupid. And what happened was there was a constant down spiral between two or three of the major warehouse operations, and everything would go into the gutter.
Right.
And then eventually they lose their inventory, the prices would climb back up and whatnot. So I just picked the price that I was willing to sell it at and let it sit. And
Well,
that worked for me then, but now this is again why I'm here.
right.
Is now there are more sophisticated tools. I don't want to be super long tail anymore. So if while I've been pulling stuff off the shelves and essentially relisting it as a fairly regular practice, and then these things that have sat around for 20 years are suddenly flying out the door, I do know that this is worthwhile. I just I didn't have the time or interest in finding a repricer for Amazon only, and therefore my stuff is buried. So yeah, if there's a great repricing tool out there in the market today, I'd be thrilled to look at it.
Well, I
Mike,
mean, like I said, you can use just a basic one. Now, just I want to throw this at you as well. There are going to be books where the price was at $75 and the price is going to drop down to $23. But I have a different mindset than you do on that. The repricers, yeah, they're going to battle with each other. Oftentimes, though, the book is going to sell when it's at the price people are willing to pay for it. So if the book was at 75 and people aren't paying for it at that price and the pre-prices start to go down, right? You're going to sell that book when that book is at a price people are willing to pay for it if you're listing a good book. But you're not going to have a book that's worth $150 that drops down to $5 because people are going to buy it when it becomes a better deal at $125. You know what I'm saying? Like that, like
Okay,
that's
again, you and I have a slightly different history because you're fresher to this.
yeah, sure,
Um,
absolutely,
the
absolutely.
initial repricing situation was it was only the mega sellers that had the repricing tools,
Hmm.
and they would take that $150 book, and the three of them might fight it out and take it down to $5. It wasn't a $5 book.
Right.
Now, I used to enjoy occasionally tweaking them by triggering them by briefly listing something that low so that they would go down that rabbit hole and I could buy their copies. Those days are
Yes.
over. I don't, but it was just, so my experience with repricers is they had no common sense. They were just an algorithmic tool, and therefore more times than not they destroyed the value temporarily of things that had better value than I wasn't willing to sell it at those kind of prices.
Right.
Mike, I can tell you this right now.
Yeah.
This simple thing that Cody is talking about is going to completely change the way you look, view, and sell books from here on in. Because I am more like you than I am more like Cody in the book selling business. Okay.
Okay.
I go back with the same history as you do. We like the niche, we like the obscure. Those obscure books that you are going down the rabbit hole in, you can still sell those on Amazon or eBay for that matter. You're already cross posting them to 5 or 6 platforms anyways, correct?
Correct.
So once you employ what Cody is showcasing to you and featuring these new ideas to you, this is going to get your number that you and I have talked about before, your daily number you wish to make. This is going to do that times 2 or 3.
Yeah. And
Excellent.
you definitely, what I will say, you can't rely on you can't rely on your tool to be able that you're using that's cross-listing these books to you can't rely on that to make the decision on, and I, I could be wrong about this, but I'm fairly certain that every single one of those tools, they just create a brand new ASIN
Mhm.
every time they create a listing on Amazon. Unless you're doing it manually, finding it manually, I don't I
Yeah, no,
because
this tool, once upon a time, when this was first designed, they really had great contacts at Amazon.
sure,
And so they basically had tools that found active ASINs and only created basins when there was no listing. So no, I'm not creating a brand new. I mean, I see the clone people do that all the time. They create brand new listings out the yin yang. No, I'm using existing listings, and my software usually finds them. So it's not like I'm creating an obscure fifth generation ASIN that nobody will ever find or need.
right.
I'm using an existing one that somebody else has already created for that particular niche, for that particular book, which is
I would be
unusual. This is a
curious.
very unusual piece of software I'm lucky to have. But at the same time, I like the tools you're showing me because they both would help me a lot.
Yeah, well,
You're gonna move more product,
yeah,
unquestioned.
as a
That's all I
period.
want to do.
Yeah,
I got I,
here's an example of a book that just sold recently. This is one I showed you a while back that I picked up, Max, at
Ah,
the some market. But anyway, this is, you don't get more obscure than this.
I love that kind of stuff.
Yeah, so this is the Keepa chart, right? It only
Okay.
has 1,437 days of history
issue.
on this book.
Okay.
And if you want to look, this is a drastically different type of book than what I just showed you earlier. The black
Mm-hmm.
line doesn't exist all the way up until 2022, right?
Yeah.
So the last time somebody had it up before me, this is it right here. It was up through December, all the way through the end of February for 1995. There was only one copy, so that had to have been what the book price was. So even though it's the lowest average sale price, if there's only one copy, that's what it was. That's what it was, and that's what it sold for.
Exactly.
So
That's my bread and butter.
right.
There you go.
So, but I use this data to know what I can do with this book, right?
Right.
So I saw that it was up 1995 and it sold. So I priced mine right here. I priced mine at $35, and it was up. I mean, for a relatively short time. Looks like a little like right at a month of active time before it sold, and it sold for $35. So,
Exact.
it it is 100% all about finding the right ASIN. And I don't know if do you have a smartphone by chance, Mike?
That's what I'm talking to you on.
Okay, perfect. So you have the Amazon Seller app on your phone?
No.
Okay, that's one thing that I do recommend getting, because what you can do with my screen is broken, or I would show you on my phone, but there is a picture scan, just like I'm sure maybe you're familiar with Google, how you can
Yeah.
take a picture with Google and find
Google Lens. Yeah.
Google Lens. They can on Amazon Seller app, you can do the same thing with a book, and it'll find the listings with the picture of that book. So
If
and you
that's on
can
the seller app, because I mean, what I've done is use their regular sales buyer's app
not
and
nearly as good.
hope. No, okay, because that's popped if I had a barcode or an ISBN fairly well.
And and
But
and that the Amazon Seller app, if you have a barcode book too, will also pop for those books. But the beautiful part, if you're when you're using the Amazon Seller app, right, is it's not just going to show you the listings like Amazon's, like, their customer side would. It's
right,
showing you the rank. It's showing you what the lowest prices are currently listed at when you're doing it that way. And 90% of the time, I say this because, it just depends on the picture, that some books have lots of different editions, but 90% of the time, the one that has the best selling rank, the one that Amazon is pushing, is going to be at the top of that list. when you're
Got it.
taking a picture with the Amazon Seller app, and you'll be able to see what I'm talking about when you use it. But just go ahead and download that. You
By
got
all
your account,
means.
log into it, and just test it out with some books and see, and you'll be able to see what I mean. Um, because and it will, that kind of thing, even just as a bookseller in general, I think is a beautiful way of quickly processing the majority of your non-barcode books and knowing if they're even worth dealing with or not. Because yes, there is potential for a book to sell more on other platforms. Yes, there's a potential for it to sell faster on other platforms. But this is just me speaking from my personal experience, okay? Amazon has 75% of the used book market. If it does not sell fast, and if it does not sell for a reasonable price on that platform, that tells me it's often not going to sell for a reasonable price and sell at a reasonable pace on other platforms as well. Um, this is not targeting your lower end books. This is targeting the books that are going to be able to build you a sustainable business model for your used bookstore. Okay. You
Cody,
can, yeah, I'm
please
sorry.
stay on this screen and don't move your cursor. Just keep it where it is. I just want to point something out to Mike, okay?
Okay. Yeah, sure.
Mike, you see the sales rank that Cody has on this book?
Yeah.
You would never have, before this conversation, you never would have listed a book. Nobody would list this book on Amazon with that sales rank, correct?
Wrong. Again, I've been long tail for so long that I didn't care if it was a 10 million plus sales rank.
Okay.
If it was cool enough and obscure enough, I would throw it up. I'd put it on the shelf, and if somebody bought it in the next 15 years, I was happy. I'm no longer
That's
happy
fair.
with that kind of
Mhm.
thing.
Yeah.
So that's why I'm looking for tools to
But
speed this
right.
process up and to winnow out that which
But
clearly is a dog.
my point is this: is we all agree this normally would be a long tail book,
Oh, this is a long tail book. Yes.
but not
You
as
would assume that based off of the rank.
yeah.
That's what I'm saying. But just because a book has a high sales rank only exists when there is enough books in the
Copy to
market.
sell.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yes. So
exactly.
yes.
And I
So
buy things that there's only 1 to 3 copies out there maximum.
You
I
are making
try that.
Cody's point. You are making Cody's point because
Exactly.
you're buying
I
the right
agree.
kind of book. You're buying the right kind of book to resell. Now we got to transform the way you think about that book and how to sell it because this would be a long tail book by 99.9% of the people out there. And yet Cody sold it in how many days, Cody?
less than a month. It was at
And
the book when I sold it. It was at it was at 11, almost 12 million rank.
okay,
Okay.
Cody. And then my last question on this book, Cody, is when you were researching this book,
Mhm.
was this a currently unavailable book?
Yes, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because there was no listings. This is when mine went up, and this is one that I use the Amazon Seller app to find.
So,
Okay,
Mike, yep,
I could be wrong on this because it's been a minute, but
yep.
there were probably other pictures of this book on the Amazon Seller app, but this is the only one that had a rank, right?
Yeah,
Like
and I love this.
if there were other books that had this exact same picture, and let's say they all had no active price, or there were no active listings on them,
Mhm.
and this is the one that had a sales rank, this is the one to go for, and
And believe
you'll
it or not, I follow that. For me, it's a much more tedious process because I'm opening up every single one of them, scanning down to get to the sales rank. So yeah, you're saving me a shitload of time.
yeah, and
Cody,
that's the mindset. Real quick, Max,
yeah,
let me
yeah.
try and finish the point I was trying to make earlier, which is you can use the Amazon Seller app for you don't have to do the Google search on the majority of your books, okay? You can use that tool for all of your books with easily identifiable covers. Now, if it's got if you know no dust jacket or there's nothing on it, and when I say easily identifiable, I would don't take that in the literal sense. You can have a book. Let me get an example of one right. Yeah, this would be one right here. I know that my camera is being a little funky right now, but that to me, I would consider easily identifiable. on cover. Okay. I don't know if you right now if you're like I have to do the research on something like that. But you would probably if there was a listing on that book, you would probably be able to find it with the Amazon seller app taking a picture and it would
Cool.
probably pull that book up. Now again, the point that I was trying to finish off on this is you can quickly um make a decision based off what you told me. There's something that I say to a lot of people in the group, and I've here in the past few weeks I've been saying it often, and it's stop playing with your shit is what I say, which is when you've got all these books that are low end duds and you're going back through them over and over again. It's like, dude, there's books out there everywhere. You can come across new books all the time. Don't keep going through the same stuff over and over just because you already have it. If it is if it's a low end profit book, send it to a used bookstore. Get a few cents. Get a little taste of the meat off that bone. Let them deal with all the extra work or whatever it might be to make the money from it, and just move on and target selling books that I know you know this, but books that are going to make you a decent amount of profit, or they're going to sell fast enough to where it's worth making a dollar. You know what I'm saying? um but using the Amazon seller app, you can process all of your books that way, not just for Amazon. I would use these tools. You also have Scout IQ, which is something I would recommend too. We can go into that here in just a minute, but basically you can process these books very, very fast and know whether or not they're worth your time. If you take a picture of a book on the Amazon seller app and you see the lowest price merchant fulfilled is $4, is not worth your time. It's
No
not worth your
kidding.
time to deal with it. And you can process these things so fast compared to what you're doing right now.
Well, the
I'm gonna
other nice thing is if you got, if I find the ASIN that works best for this thing, my software, when I plop in that ASIN, actually pulls the full Amazon listing data. So I've got the author title and whatnot. Now I'll be editing it because Amazon's fucked up on, a number of things over the years, to say the least. But overall, it speeds up my whole entry process.
well
My real
what I will say, I'm sorry, Mike. I want
Go
to.
ahead.
I'm not trying to cut you off, but I want to get
No,
this when you run across a book, right? Let's say you use the Google search and you find a book, and I'm bringing this example up because I run into this, so I'm sure this might be one of those things you run into as well. Yours is a first edition, and theirs is the listing for the book club edition. Is that
exactly.
okay? Okay, that is where you're it's not that Amazon is wrong. It's just that Google brought you to the wrong listing by using the picture. You go and do the you manually type it into Google as that first edition, right? And see what the difference is in the Google result. See if there is that Amazon listing for the actual first edition of that book. Now, I'm not going to tell you that you're wrong, that they're always right. No, they definitely have broken listings. Some things are definitely not right, but more often than not, it's just because the image that you're searching for is just bringing you to the wrong listing. That's all it is.
Very interesting. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Again,
And Mike, me and you, we will sell more books and move more product when we stop thinking that people buy books the same way you and I buy books.
mhm.
There are people who are just so used to Amazon that that's all they're going to buy from.
Oh, people buy from the site that they're on,
Yes.
that they use, and they rarely go from site to site because you can see that in the price
Right.
differentials.
And I can tell you this, and Cody and I will reveal more about this in coming weeks, but Cody has really been a force with me on helping me understand Amazon on a greater level and a deeper level, I would add. And I have been making some incredible sales on books I would have shuddered at putting on Amazon before. And I think Cody and I looked at my ASP about a week ago,
Yes.
and my ASP was, I think, $68 at that time. Um, And I have really just started doing this, I don't know, 2 months ago, Cody, 3 months ago.
Yeah, and Mike, I know you'll find this amazing. He's really keeping about 80% of the profit from all the books that he's selling, just because he has such a high ASP on all his stuff,
Oh
which
yeah.
I'm sure, as you know, is very
Is
rare on Amazon. Like,
Well, that's why
80%.
I never went down into the gutter there,
Yeah.
because
Right.
yeah, we're working for them, not me.
Also, write this down. I think you're writing something down, but write this down real quick too, Mike. Reprice it. REPRICEIT. That is the repricer that I recommend just starting with. And when you get it, okay, when you get it, Max or I, we can help you get the right triggers and everything set up to start to that way you can implement and start utilizing it,
Perfect.
just right off the bat. And again, it's you there are better repricers. I will be frank, there's better repricers, but you're also going to be spending more money on those types of repricers. Now, again, if you're up front, you're like, hey, dude, I'm ready to do that. Let me know, if send me a message, and I'll get you in
Well,
on.
I mean, let's put it this way. I've got a couple thousand books already on the database that are live.
Mhm.
If this can handle that for the first cut, that's fine. If
Yeah,
I need something, a better piece of software to make it work even better, it's worth the money to invest. Here's what I wrote. The three things that we said. Amazon seller app, Keepa, reprice it.
yeah,
Now I've got some marching orders.
yeah,
This is
and
why I joined.
Yeah.
yeah, man, and again, I'm pushing. I know that we eBay. You got a lot of other things. The reason that I've kind of taken over the direction that I think we should be going today is your mindset, I think, was off on Amazon, which I respect the reasoning for why you feel that way, but your your mindset is cutting you out of 75% of the used book market online. And
and
if
and that was killing me.
Yeah.
yes,
And I understood that, and it bugged the crap out of me that what once was my gold mine,
Mhm.
was I was getting some dross out of, and enough occasional great sales to say, okay, I got to stick it out, but I didn't have any tools to make it different. Now I
yes.
do.
Absolutely. Yeah, and Google, again, Google's your best friend. I'll real quick, I'll lay out what I do personally. Again, now I would also write down this as well, because this is another tool that I would say adding would be beneficial, which would be Scout IQ. This is one that basically all that Scout IQ does is it can quit if you have an ISBN or you have a barcode, it can immediately generate the sales rank and the active listing prices for that book, all in two columns next to each other. And again, a lot of these tools some people go off of because it will tell you good or bad, red or green, send it in or not. You already understand sales rank, and that sort, following those numbers is key. So what I do is I use a tool like that, and I would say for 85 to 90% of my books, that data is accurate enough for me to make a decision. The other 10% of my books will be the books that have a super high sales rank, and let's say their pricing is super high, or a super high sales rank and there's no active listings, right? Um, those are the books that I go and I look at on Keepa, because it's usually going to be one of a couple of things. If the book, if it, let's say out, just for instance, the book sales rank is 10 million and the used copies up there are $300. There's three copies and they're up there for $300, right? To me, that tells me it's almost always one of two things. Is I use the term, I call it fool's gold, which is where somebody is, people can price the book at whatever they want, but when you go back and you look at the sales history, it's sold for $4, right? It's a dud.
Well,
It's a dud.
yeah, I mean, I've got this mental list in my head of sellers that are nothing but scrapers that post crazy prices. And sometimes you wonder if they're money launderers, or sometimes just that
No,
they're crazy.
dude, it's just
But
they don't know what they're
but yeah,
doing. They
well,
don't know what they're doing. That
It's a
is
business
100%
model.
it.
They've been doing it for too many years not to know what they're doing. They're doing it deliberate. That, and most of them, the selling side isn't what you're seeing on Amazon. It's the fact they've scraped that listing and put it on international sites so that they are the only copy, so they can get that super high price.
And
I
no,
mean,
no,
it's a whole strange little
let let me finish
micro
let
environment.
me finish what I'm saying here then,
Okay.
and then you can tell me I'm wrong on it. But I'll let me finish this point. Those prices, and I'm going to give you my opinion first, and then I'll give you the facts. The prices are that way because people see a high number. They have these tools like Scout IQ, what I'm mentioning to you, and Scout IQ saying $300, send it in. Because all these tools, all the scouting tools can see is what the active prices are, right?
Exactly.
And so what people these are just other booksellers that are putting it in at that price because that's what the reprices have gone to. This isn't a scheme, I assure you, or people would be paying for it. And you look at the data, right? This is why Keepa is going to change your mindset on this too, because you're going to look back and you're going to see, okay, this book is ranked 10 million. Everybody has the copies up for $300. But when you go and you look at the actual data, which isn't going to lie to you, brother, it's not going to lie. You look back and 3 years ago, the book sold for $4. Okay. But there's another side to that coin, which I make use of on a daily basis to profit on, which is when you see a book that's ranked 10 million, you see prices are at $300, but you go back and you see in the sales history, it sells for $50 or it sells for $75 or it's just that the book will sell and it is a good book to sell. It's just it's priced out of what people are willing to pay for it.
Believe
And
it or not, I don't have the tools you now have,
mhm.
but essentially you're selling to the converted. That's essentially the very tedious process I go through manually to get
Right.
to almost the same point. I mean, I'm happy to sell, if I'll see four $300 books, I'm happy to see that, geez, the auction records aren't that high. This isn't that high. I'm going to price it at $69.95 or $99.95, and it's going to sell within a month. Yes, but I
Right.
don't have those fast tools to get to that point, so I'm friggin' bogged down. So I'm very, very happy to be talking to you guys.
Not anymore.
Yeah, and not only fast, but you can get a more accurate price because again, this business
You've got
is all about
history I can't have access to. This is
exactly.
wonderful.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm
This is
dying for
something.
history.
Right. This is something that you can utilize to know, like, because not like this is the beautiful part, we'll just pretend this is a different number here, right? We'll say this is, well, no, we'll say this is the same price, but you can know, let's say maybe even the price that it was listed for when it last sold was maybe a little too high as well, based on how long it was listed. So right here, this was like a month at $20. Well, if you would see this black line go down to, let's say 2021, you would know that it was up for 9 months. Well, that to me says, well, maybe list it at $15 and see if there's a difference, because the business model is not about getting the absolute best price. The business model is moving your product.
Turning it.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. And
All
and
right.
you're going to you're dude, well, first off, Max, you could tell me if you think I'm wrong here, but I think that this is the type of thing, and Mike, this is all up to you as to whether or not you're interested in
I
this.
know what you're going to
But
say.
I think we should have a part two on this. I
Yes,
think
I
we should
have
have a
that
part
written
two.
down. I have
I
it
think we
written
should have a
down.
part two for two different reasons.
Yep.
Two different reasons. One, I am very curious because I know what you're saying, that they are finding the ASIN and maybe they are finding an active ASIN, but I would love to be able to get an idea of some of your listings and kind of go through them. You don't have to show us your whole store, but like, us get like a good sample size of ASINs that you have, and let's dig into it and see if what your software is doing is finding the right listing. the one that is going to, that people, like what I want to tell you, you do that search and you find it, or you do the Amazon seller and you find it, to make sure that that's happening. Because if it's not your repricer may help, but if all these books are listed under bad ASINs,
Oh
it's only
yeah,
going to
no,
go so
it's
it's
a
only going to
definitely
go so
a
far.
multi-process.
All right.
And again, part of this was Amazon from the beginning, because they used to insist that if you had a later printing, a later edition, you couldn't piggyback it on the original ASIN. You had to create one. This goes back. So this is why you got, if I had a slightly different publisher, slightly different year, slightly different this, slightly different that, it couldn't fit in the box that was the box that was actually selling. They
But
and they would
that's
penalize you if you did. I mean, it's so I now that I can remodel it, hey, I'd
but
be happy to crank through my listings and see where I can go with this.
what I will say though is you do utilize that, like your Google searching, and you verify that that listing is what you have, right?
Yeah,
So but just obviously make sure that's the one that you have. Don't put the book club edition on the first edition listing. You know what I'm saying? Like
no,
that. But
I
but it is, dude, this is going to be the number one thing that will drastically change your business. They want you to go off the active listings because they've built the book database now. They've got it. There are very few books that I process on a daily basis that don't have a listing on Amazon. And I'm talking, it goes down. I mean, you can go as obscure as you want, and you're still, I would say, at least 90% of the time going to find an Amazon listing for it. So they built that. So they want it to be to where, hey, we want to this is their mindset. When somebody Googles this book, they want them to be the top one on that result page, and they want the listing that people are buying and that people are happy buying to be the one that's on the top of that results. So they want
bingo.
you to piggyback off that SKU. The book market on Amazon is thriving. It is not dying. Okay, I don't care what anybody says or what the conspiracies are. It is thriving. It is just, you have to have good books. That's it. If you're selling junk, you're going to get junk in return. That's
And
just
Mike,
the bottom line for it.
and Mike, you already have good books. I know
Mhm.
you have a death pal you're trying to work out of.
Yeah,
And you are going to wake up in a couple days once all of this is installed for you, and you're going to have a new revigoration of your day looking at books. It's going to reinvigorate you. It's going to be an amazing experience to follow you, to have you in the Paper Gold broadcast and talk about this with the other members and on the Discord. And we're going to work closely with you. And Cody, of course, we're going to need an episode 2 probably in another month or so, and get a first peek inside Mike's store with the repricer, with Keepa Knowledge, and using Amazon as a way to move more and more books. So we'll set that up in a couple of weeks for sure. I do have to stop us there. We were going over our 60-minute mark,
Oh wow, we have.
which I knew we would quickly. And the funny thing to me is, Mike, I thank you for uh, having the wherewithal to want to come on our show and talk about this. I feel like this show is going to reach and hit a lot of people who have the same mindset, Mike, that you had, and I'm using the past tense, and it's going to reinvigorate a lot of people when we do episode 2. It's going to be amazing for everybody else to see what we're doing and how your store is improving from there. And so we will be in touch. We will see you Thursday night for the Paper Gold Zoom call, hopefully, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And for anyone who's interested, you can just reach out on Patreon, type in Paper Gold, or go to my Instagram page, Common Ground Finds _ to find out more information. Mike, anything you want to say in closing?
a I'm very happy with the experience. B, there's a whole shitload more things I'd love to talk to you guys about. Um, and C, if you want to see the kind of listings I have, yes, I'm in every single one of these marketplaces, but you can easily find me on mikeslibrary.com.
Oh, thank you, thank you. And he'll be on Whatnot every now and then.
Oh, once in a blue moon. It's
Yeah.
again, you've taught me a good deal about what I thought I knew about Amazon that's now obsolete, and probably I'll learn more things about
We
Whatnot to
we just want to
crank it
make
up.
we want to make you more money, that's all, and make you a happy bookseller. And I can say this, Cody and I, we never talk about the problems of eBay or Amazon. We are a solution-based idea, and that's the direction we always go. We're looking for the solutions, not the problems.
And I
Okay.
really do. I appreciate you being receptive, because I
Yeah.
know I truly I know that it does when you come from a different perspective on it, it's easy to see things that way. But again, if if you just use the example of eBay, right, and you just type in books and sold, the market just on that platform alone, the book market is thriving, and they don't even have the majority of the customer base. That's what Amazon is. And you already have an idea of what makes a good book. You have that eye already built.
Oh,
And
great.
something that we didn't get into as well, you have a old account, which I mean, not that I would say anything about this otherwise, but on the black market of Amazon, that is gold. People will pay big money just to have access to one of those accounts, because you probably have nothing that you're gated in on the
That's
book.
another episode.
Yeah,
That's
as a, yeah, but no, seriously, man, that your account itself is very valuable, because you can sell books that most people wouldn't
are
even be
restricted
able to
on.
dream
Yeah.
to have access to selling. That's just
Oh,
yeah,
I,
and
again, it's a problem I don't know about.
You're
yeah,
gonna know
exactly.
soon.
And we'll get there, man. But seriously, thanks for being receptive. Thanks for coming on, and we'll see you guys next
And
week.
and
Yes,
one quick one though,
sure,
Cody.
sure.
Message me if you feel that there's something better than Reprices that may fit my needs even more accurately. It's not a price point issue, it's a productivity issue for
Yeah,
me.
Beautiful.
I do think that truthfully, we'll just, I think, go down this route. And I really want to see, because this is something I think that would be good for viewers to see as well. You don't have to go and spend a lot of money to see good results from something
Okay.
like this. That truthfully, obviously I can share that with you, but it's a longer process. And I really think, just so that you can start seeing that it is
Let's
worth
do the simple
investing in.
process first.
Yeah.
Okay, thank
It's
you.
going to
Yeah,
be exciting.
absolutely.
All right,
Yeah.
everybody, goodbye. Thank you. We'll see you next week. Thank you, Mike.
Thanks, Mike.
Thank you, guys.